Before the president went to Oparanya's homecoming, he called me because, okay, it was not him speaking at first because I got a call. Nikaambiwa, hey, somebody wants to talk to you. So I wondered which somebody. I just said, haya mpe simu basi. Nikasikia, haya bwana Morara, ujambo. He's the president. Obvious. His voice is unmistakable. And you see, the president is very keen on knowing your history. He began by asking me where I'm born, my parents, where I went to school, what are my qualifications, what have I studied. But he didn't ask me whatever I'm doing or to what end I'm doing it. He didn't even complain that hii mambo nafanya sijui ni mbaya or what. But Hussein denies he was not there. And I cannot go to the lengths of recording a president to try and prove that he talked to me. I wished that they had called to controvert the facts of what I was speaking about on TV that day.
Yes.
Waseme hii project amedanganya.
Yes.
Hii haikuwa for 808 million. Ama hii haikuwa 1.2 billion. Ama hiyo yenye anasema haijafanywa, hiyo kitu imefanywa, niko 100% sure. Wangesema vitu kama hizo, unajua hata Kenyans wangesema, kwani ukijana kwani anatuambia nini? But they have never, ever controverted any point that I have made factually. They've never controverted it factually.
Because this Kenya that we are going into right now, the phase that we are in right now, we are not, like Morara said, what you're seeing right now is a calm before a storm that's gonna come like a loud thunderclap. And in fact, the more silent it is, I think the more worried President Ruto should be.
Let me speak about the issue of William Ruto calling me so that I don't lose it.
Oh, yes, please. Go ahead.
You know, I'm not known for lying. And I know that if you tell one lie, all your truths will become questionable. But also, there are extents that I have been tempted to go to prove that the president calls me that I don't want to go to, because then I will synchronize myself. What I mean to say is, if the president calls you, it is in strict confidence. And even if you don't like whatever he says on the call, you may want to just respect that it is the president that has called and keep your conversation private. So this expectation that Hussein had that probably I should have recorded the president, or that I should have gone to very great lengths to try and prove that the president called me, was neither here nor there, because the upshot of it would have been, now leaders who want to speak to me would be worried, because then it means you are not a dependable person. People cannot identify with you as a person of integrity who can keep certain conversations private. But the undecaying truth, and someday if I become president, by then tafuta hizo records nizichambue vibaya sana. Naweza tafuta watu wa IT ni put on a very big embarrassment, hao watu wawili, Hussein together with his master William Ruto, because they refuse that they didn't make the call, which is Hussein wouldn't know anyway. He was not there when the call was made. But he was woken up from his sleep to call TV and deny something he didn't know. I was at KICC attending an event called Okoa Uchumi Citizen Assembly. I was supposed to be a speaker at that event. While seated, my bodyguard told me that the government spokesman, Isaac Mwaura, is outside the door and wants to see me. Out of respect, I walked outside, met Isaac Mwaura, we talked, he gave me his number, I gave him my number, I explained to him a few things, he explained to me a few things. Little did I know that Isaac Mwaura, in a corner somewhere, had a cameraman photographing me. And the mission was, wanipige picha nikiwa na Isaac Mwaura so that I look like they've already compromised me. Huyu tushamuongelesha. So I didn't know that the photo was taken. It was taken without my knowledge. I went back into the citizen assembly. I gave my speech. While I'm in the car headed home, my PA shows me something that is trending on Twitter to look at this photo. And it's not Mwaura himself who has posted, he gave it to his bloggers. So they've posted it now with their fake accounts. It's now trending that they've already bought me. And by the way, I would like to let Isaac Mwaura know that I will audit him too. because I suspect that he might have used my photo to extort public funds from the government, because he might have been given money and upetie Morara, then he ate it, then took a photo with me.
Yeah, Morara, buana.
As if it can happen, it happens all the time.
Ish.
Money is even given to someone atipeleka kwa mchango. The guy goes there and takes photos.
That's true.
So I'm worried that the guy might have used my name and my good picture to try and extort money, public funds. But Mwaura, when he took my number, he told me the president wants to talk to me. I told him, why doesn't he invite me to a meeting? He said no. Before the president went to Oparanya's homecoming, he called me because, it was not him speaking at first, because I got a call. Nikaambiwa, hey, somebody wants to talk to you. So I wondered which somebody. I just said, haya mpe simu basi. Nikasikia, haya bwana Morara, ujambo. It's the president. Obvious. His voice is unmistakable. And you see, the president is very keen on knowing your history. He began by asking me where I'm born, my parents, where I went to school, what are my qualifications, what have I studied. But he didn't ask me whatever I'm doing or to what end I'm doing it. He didn't even complain that hii mambo nafanya sijui ni mbaya or what. No. He just knew my history. He asked me like a friendly talk. Then he told me, you are a young man with potential. Serikali ni kubwa, nitakuweka kwa mpango. Nitakuja nitaangalia hii mahali naweza kuweka hata wewe ni kugroom. I told him, Your Excellency the President, thank you for the offer, but I'm fine. I'm okay with wherever I am. Then he told me, haya ni sawa kijana, tutaongea. And he cut off the call and that is it. But Hussein denies he was not there. And I cannot go to the lengths of recording a president to try and prove that he talked to me. I wished that they had called to controvert the facts of what I was speaking about on TV that day.
Yes.
But hii project amedanganya.
Yes.
Hii haikuwa 808 million. Ama hii haikuwa 1.2 billion. Ama hiyo yenye anasema haijafanywa, hiyo kitu imefanywa, niko 100% sure. Wangesema vitu kama hizo, unajua hata Kenyans wangesema, kwani kijana kwani anatuambia nini? But they have never ever controverted any point that I have made factually. They've never controverted it factually. Hadi yenye nimereveal jana ya Kenya Pipeline Corporation, ngoja uone how quiet they will be about it. Because whenever their mouth is full of food, they can't talk. They have table manners.
You know, one other thing that Morara can be very good at. Morara is a very humorous person, despite the fact that he's doing God's work.
Yes.
And he's doing very serious work and very dangerous work. But he never loses his sense of humor, which I think is part in what really connects him.
Yes.
Also, especially with people down in the village na nini, wanaelewa hizi vitu na ana understand lugha yao. Mpaka tana, what's your name? Nimesahau jina yako. DJ Omosh.
Atlanta. Oh, sorry. Omosh.
Omosh. DJ Omosh Fire. Yeah. You know, like you are to say something and then we'll go back to Mika and then tutarudi kwa Morara. Yeah.
Yani unajua pale tumefika hapa, I don't even know where we should start. The only thing I can ask here is, you talked about something called odious debt and what we can do as diaspora to or should I say, what's the right word? Like, what are our options with this odious debt? Can we go the Mozambique way and say sisi tuna deny, or what? As a lawyer, and also as our should I say the people's watchman at this point, what would you advise us to do with this odious debt? And
to piggyback on that, I think this also chimes in, is somebody's asking, what do you think of Jimmy Wanjiki? Because Jimmy Wanjiki is one
umeweka yote.
I'm like, let me just put it in there, because who's Jimmy Wanjiki?
Yeah.
And because again, he talked about the government not contra. He used a big word over there. What is that? Contravening? No, controverting. Sorry. Jimmy Wanjigi has talked and addressed about odious debt.
Yeah.
On top of that, he has educated us on what should happen in the process of budget and whatever it is. And nobody yet, even from government, has come to controvert his whatever he has said. Nobody has come and said what he's saying is wrong, right? And that goes to his point. If nobody's been able to controvert what he has said yet. So, in addition to what Omosh is asking about odious debt, and people are asking on YouTube, what do you think of Jimmy Wanjigi? What's your opinion, Morara?
First, let me say, Kenyans should all be grateful for what Jimmy has done. He has spent a lot of his money in terms of hiring researchers. He has spent a lot of his money in terms of hiring lawyers. He has hired even consultants from abroad to come and put this together. He has really tried in terms of bringing to perspective what odious debt is and how we are losing money. He has also spent a lot on court cases. As you know, he's been one of the greatest support pillars behind the nullification of the Finance Act in court. The Finance Act that was declared unconstitutional by the High Court and by the Court of Appeal, and now it is in the Supreme Court. He's been supporting that effort very, very much. So we are grateful to what Jimmy has done, because Jimmy is doing what we should all do, following the money. And since he's been eating with these crooks, he knows them better than we do. What I don't know is Jimmy's intentions, why he does what he does. But sometimes you see, we don't look at the intentions, but we also look at what we are gaining in terms of civic education, in terms of knowledge.
Yep.
So he may have his own intentions, but so far so good. He has done a lot of good work, which we are really grateful for. Mambo ingine yake tutajua kuenda mbele as things become clearer. Remember, God does not use perfect people. So don't expect Jimmy Wanjigi to be an angel. I've seen people say, oh, this is a billionaire who participated in the theft of public funds. This is someone who was just stealing with them. He's probably bitter that he was not given a certain tender. Well, all that could be true or false. But you should know that God does not use perfect people. God uses imperfect people. And God has a very good reasoning why he uses imperfect people. He uses imperfect people because when he uses imperfect people, there is no doubt that if it was not him seated on the throne, that thing would have happened. For example,
Amen.
If God had allowed Absalom to be the king, Absalom was already tall, he was already handsome. He was so handsome that his hair used to be weighed every year. His hair. He used to sit at the city gate and people used to come to admire him and used to judge cases at the city gate. So everybody expected that Absalom would have been the king. But you see, God raised the son of Bathsheba. Bathsheba is someone who got into this marriage through adultery. She was Uriah's wife. Her husband was killed so that she can be stolen. And here she is giving birth to the next king. So you'd expect that, you see, King David had 7 other wives. Why didn't God choose the one that has a proper, has a proper story rather than this one who came in by adultery? Or why choose Solomon? God chooses imperfect people because the Bible says his strength is made perfect in weakness. That when you are weak, that is when his strength is shown. That is why God used Moses. You should remember that Moses was a murderer and a fugitive from justice. Moses himself was a stammerer. So that is why God uses those kind of people, because when he does something, then there is no doubt that if it was not him doing it, if it was not him seated on the throne, it would have happened. So that's what I can say about Jimmy Wanjigi, that is neither perfect, but the work he's doing is very notable.
So, Paul.
Now, fast forward. You asked me about odious debt and what I think the diaspora can do about odious debt. The first thing we need to do is we need to audit the odious debt, and we need to demonstrate that it is actually odious. That's the first thing we should do. Now, it's not difficult to audit the odious debt. We can do it as Kenyans with the publicly available information. You as a Kenyan, you can already audit the odious debt. How can you do it? Go to the National Treasury website, search for something called the latest debt register. When you get the debt register, it will have all the debts the amounts that were borrowed, which project it was meant for, the year of maturity, how much we've paid, how much we've not paid, it's all there. Now in that debt register kuna uongo mingi na ukora mingi na vitu mingi zimebadilishwa, so be careful for the fake news hapo ndani ya hiyo debt register. So what you will be looking for is matching the project with the money, because our constitution says you can only borrow for development. So you have to match the money with a development project. If we are able to match all the money with the development projects, then we will have made a step in the right direction, because then we will know that which odious debt was stolen and in which year, and who was the financier, who was loaning us the money. So the first thing is to acquire the knowledge. So we need to audit it, and we cannot trust William Ruto to audit the foreign debt, the odious debt, because Uhuru, they stole this money together and of course used it to bribe Raila. So Raila will also be asked ile pesa ilikununua kwani ilitoka wapi, together with Kalonzo. So we can't trust any of those people to audit our debt, because none of them will give us the truth. All of them will obstruct the justice, and they will guide us down the wrong path and engulf us in enough smoke. We need to audit the debt ourselves as Kenyans. We are the only ones who can audit that debt. We need to do what we call mob justice accountability or mob audit. Inafaa tushikane hivi, kila mtu ashike moja, tukae chini tupige hiyo debt. Kwanza I'll just post that debt register on my X page. Kila mtu ai-download hapo, kila mtu apige analysis yake, tukuje meeting of minds kwa Twitter space tumalize hiyo story. As Kenyans, we are the only ones who can audit that debt, and I want to request, if there is anybody watching us or who will watch this video later who works for the National Treasury and has damning details about what we are looking for, because you know sometimes you get into a dark room looking for a black cat which is not there. So if this person can just help us identify and just point us to where we should be looking, atuambie tu angalieni hapa na hapa na hapa, ama angalia tarehe fulani, ama angalia financials fulani, hapo ndio mahali pesa upotea sana, I would be very excited if that person was to help us in such a manner. So the first thing is we should know which debt, who was the financier, who was it borrowed from, then we document it. Once we document it, then we now do a call to action. A call to action is number one, to notify those financiers that watafutani na William Ruto kwa nyuma ya tent walipane. Hiyo ni mambo yao yeye na wao na Uhuru. Yeah, we are not going to pay that thing. But we need to identify it first so that we know who we are communicating with. So that is what we can do about odious debt. But I can confirm that indeed I've also done my own research, and odious debt in Kenya comes to about 6.7 trillion.
Wow, 6.7 trillion. So that's almost 7 trillion. And I think the total debt that Kenya has is about 12 trillion.
It's about
10.4.
It's 10.4. Yeah, so 10.4.
More than half.
So about 70%, almost 70% of it is odious.
Yes.
Meaning, you know, like ukona debt ya 100k, lakini 70k, we ukupokea hiyo pesa.
Yomosha likula.
Yeah, so I think,
Surely.
Oh, sorry.
So I think it's very important that this thing is pursued, and we've already seen a successful case in Mozambique. So I think Kenya, we can come to this. Let me come to Mika, and then we're gonna go to Val, and then now we're gonna come closing
to the comments.
To the comments, and then we're gonna come back to Morara. Tutampatia time pia na yeye apumzike. Has been waking up at a very ungodly hour wherever he is in order to be able to talk to us. So Mika twende, and then tutakuja kwa Val. Mika.
Kwanza nilikuwa nataka tu kuambia Umosha juu odious debt si ati ni debt tuna okina odi wa Moranga.
Yani
hapo tumeelewana.
Tumeelewana.
Ni vizuri umweleze hizi vitu ajue.
Sikujua hapo odious anafia ni maodi kizao. Si maodi.
Sikujua we na Malkiat ni marafiki. Endelea.
Si odi bet.
Si odi bet. Si odi bet. But anyway, for me, Morara, it's something that you said earlier on. You said that remaining faceless, tribeless, fearless, everything is what they want us to be. And you have to rebrand, and you are looking at rebranding into a youth leader. This is something that I know that it's not an easy thing. Most people might be seeing the delivery and the funny delivery and how good you are at it, but they don't know what you put into it. So just wanted you to share some of the troubles or the issues that you're facing and how you can be helped in being able not only to just turning into that youthful leader, but also understanding and making all the youths understand that we have a certain voice, a certain movement that we need to be following, or certain things you're supposed to do to achieve the change that we're looking for.
Okay, Morara, na before to hiyo jibu Morara, there's someone called Charles Mutua on YouTube anasema, please come, I give you an office for the audit and civic education of mambo ya Machakos. That's Charles Mutua. But anyway, Charles Mutua, you can inbox us and we'll get that information to Morara. I am Morara, answer Mika's question.
Thank you, Bishop Charles Mutua. I'm actually also reading the comments. I've read that he's a Catholic priest and he's excited that I'm using scriptures. So I'm also reading the comments.
Okay,
so Wakenya who are watching...
Mpande mbegu. Mmepewa number.
So the Kenyans who are watching and participating, they should know that I'm reading. I'm reading those comments. All right, so let's go to political organization. Now, ladies and gentlemen, these people that hold our government to hostage, they are very happy when we are formless and leaderless. They are happy because then it means we don't pose a threat. By they don't mind being on the media and they don't mind being corrupt. They are used to it. They've accepted it as their title. So when you say William Ruto is corrupt, you are not hurting his feelings. He already knows he's corrupt. He's been called that for the last 30 years. And he's just fine with it. And many more people, when you say they are corrupt, they've stolen public funds, they know it's true. They are not in denial. They are in silent approval. And they don't mind. They are actually used now to being called so, and they are comfortable with the title. They've lost their conscience. So they don't care what you call them. The only thing that can affect these people is if you target their money and their power. Those two things will have them stay in the toilet every day for the next 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, years. Those people, they'll take dawa za pressure na dawa za they will be over the wataumia mbaya sana. If you target their power and if you target their money, hizo ndizo zile vitu mbili they can kill their wife for. These are people who can actually kill their own family, by the way. So those people, if you touch those two things, mtakuwa mmewaguza. So what we should be asking ourselves is, how do we touch their money and how do we touch their power? Kitu ya kwanza tujue their money is abroad. So the only way to touch that money is to identify it and kuimulika na torch. See, it's hidden in a dark corner. The solution to a dark corner inakuanga nini? A very bright torch. If we can identify land, the land that Ruto owns in Australia, that farm that he bought, and even find the land company that did the transaction, and even find the proxy company that he is using to own the land, and even dig its owners, of which hiyo ni kazi inachukua time na inachukua resources. But if you can find that information, that means you've smoked them out of where they are hiding their money. The other easier one is political reorganization. This Gen Z wave should not be left to just be some other ordinary protests. It should change the country. Let me assure the people who are watching today from the diaspora and everywhere that the country is in a state of tension. This Kenya hii saa hii vile mnaona hivi. I said it on JKL, I'll say it here again. It is the calm before a storm. There's a lot of tension in Kenya. And can I just give you one indicator of that tension? For you to know that there is tension in Kenya, look at the music and creative industry. Ni mwanamuziki mgani saa hii ametoa hit song na ilikuwa tu hii mambo wanaimbanga ya upuzi, mapenzi, breakups, drugs, gangs and clout and I don't know parties. Nani ameimba hit song saa hii? Hakuna.
I mean lately
hakuna mtu ametoa hit song hata moja.
Yeah.
All artists wako chini ya maji. Why? Because whenever there is tension, there is no creativity. People don't want to hear those songs. People want to hear about bad governance and corruption because that is the mood of the nation. A comedian called, a content creator called Crazy Kenyan.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Recently. The video on Instagram has 47 million views.
Okay.
The guy is almost becoming Michael Jackson. Somebody who is in France sent us that video. It's been translated into French. People are watching it in France.
Damn.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Because that's what Kenyans want to hear. Kenyans want to hear about bad governance and about corruption. And they are listening to the conversations. They are listening to OneMicShow. They are listening to Radio Jambo. They are listening to JKL. They are listening. They want to hear who is going to provide a solution. Nani anaenda kusema venye how we will kill this beast. Because that is what is hurting Kenyans. I can tell you right now, if you hold an election in Kenya today, tribe will not be one of the things that you will be talking on the stage.
Wow.
People will not care about tribe. They'll want somebody who can perform. Therefore, we need to organize our civic unrest and morph it up into political action. Political action begins with political organization. And a political organization is not a limited company. It's not an NGO. It's a political party. And a political party should have the ideals of the Kenya that we want. And it should be by the people,
for the people.
For the people. So we need to start thinking very seriously about registering a people's political party, one that we own, one that is ours, that we are using as a vehicle to challenge this system. 2, we need an arise of leaders. We need people to step out of their comfort zones. We need leaders of integrity to step into the civic space and stop thinking about problems at mimi sina pesa ya campaign, nini. If you are a leader of integrity, it's your moment, bana. Step on the stage and shine. Watu watakutusi. People say we ni kiherehere. That's the first thing they usually say about an outspoken person. Any person who is outspoken and confident, wanamuita kiherehere. Tuwe wachana hiyo kiherehere yako. No. If there is one thing I've learned from William RUTO, and I will continue to learn, but in the opposite, is consistency. William RUTO is consistent. Yeah?
Oh,
Yes,
absolutely.
that he is.
That is.
When he tells a lie, he tells it without blinking. He tells it 1,000 times. He tells it until you doubt your truth.
The lie becomes the truth.
And let me tell you, bana, consistency is powerful. The only way our youth are able to be brought into Al-Shabaab is because they are told a lie so many times, very consistently, until they believe it.
Yeah.
Religion is based on consistency. It's all about telling the gospel every Saturday, Sabbath, or every Sunday, consistently. That's how even fake pastors have been able to kuteka nyara wa Kenya, even in Shakahola, by telling them a lie consistently until they believe it, that if they stay hungry, they'll see Jesus and die. So, Kenyans, we have to be consistent. And I, as MORARA KEBASO, it doesn't matter hata tukibaki tukiwa watu 10, mimi na nyinyi mwenye kwa studio, I'm going to be consistent to the very end. And that is what all Kenyans should be ready to do. Unajua Kenyans tumezoea, we lose attention too fast. We talk about this issue, then suddenly haibambi. We want something new. Then we move on to something new. So it becomes like, it's like we are watching a movie. We tuna watch hii kwa Netflix, hii haibambi, we stop that one, we start another one. Hii mambo ya corruption and bad governance, we have to consistently keep it as the number one topic in Kenya. It needs to be the number one topic from now to 2027 every day.
100.
That's why I even tell people, ukiwa kwa date na girlfriend yako mmekuja coffee, 5 minutes ni ya kuongelea bad governance. If she's clueless on bad governance, leave that girl alone.
Mpaka kwa date mahali mnakutana msichana. Kama ajui mambo ya bad governance, mnaenda wapi?
But Morara, to be fair, also say, if the girl and the boy go out and the boy doesn't know about bad governance,
leave the that son of Adam alone. Let him go.
Okay, all right.
We need to morph up into a political organization. You see, the problem with Kenyans is that they are afraid of politics. Is that siasa ni chafu? Siasa ni is a dirty game. It's a dirty game because dirty people are playing it. There are places elsewhere in the world where politics of issues and politics of development is done. Why is that one not dirty? We have dirty politics because we have dirty politicians. We have now elected into our elective institutions criminals of international repute. In our parliament, we have money launderers. In our parliament, we have wash.
Yeah.
In our parliament, we have cocaine traffickers.
Murderers.
In our parliament, we have sex traffickers. In our parliament, we have people who do human trafficking. In our parliament, we have people who benefit from banditry. In West Pokot. And they are in parliament, seated, honorable members of parliament. And we expect laws. Which kind of laws do we expect from criminals?
Wow. I mean,
to drain up that swamp. And you see, you cannot drain the swamp without a replacement. Power hates a vacuum. That is why when Raila stepped out of opposition politics, I stepped in.
Okay.
Because power does not want a vacuum. It must always be occupied by something. So if you remove bad leaders, you might put worse leaders. That's why when we were doing the Gen Z protest and people were saying RUTO must go, I was telling them it should be RUTO and Gachagua must go. Because you can't remove RUTO and replace with Gachagua. That is jumping from the frying pan to the fire.
Even worse.
Wow.
It's worse.
Wow.
So then we need to morph up into a political organization, and we need to encourage leaders of integrity. You know, I usually avoid this conversation about the youth. You know, saying that it is time for the youth to occupy leaders of position. Yes, it's true, it's time for the youth, but which kind of youth? Because we have youth who are very corrupt. Even in this government, we have young leaders in this government, like that Manyata MP Munjiri, who was apologizing to the president for voting no to the finance bill.
Wow, yeah, that was very disappointing.
Yeah.
Very, very disappointing.
We have young leaders. Kwani, how old is Ndindi Nyoro? Or Nyororo, as
Nyororo,
yeah.
Ndindi Nyororo.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Nyororo.
Very young guy. We have young leaders already in governance who are very corrupt, extremely corrupt. So then what we need is not necessarily young leaders. It's an advantage to have a young leader because of the energy and the foresight. But it's also good to have people of integrity. So me, my clarion call is, I'm calling on Kenyans of great integrity. It doesn't matter whether you are a Gen Z, a millennial, a baby boomer. It's your time to step into civic space and play an active role. Let us stop leaving our politics to idiots. Why should brilliant people like us be led by idiots? Fools. People who have questionable academic papers. They themselves, they cannot construct a sentence. They are even proud saying it in public that unajua mimi huko bunge, Oscar Sudi was saying, huko bunge unajua mimi
That's what I was thinking of. Engineer.
Mimi huko bunge mimi siongeangi hiyo Kiingereza mingi, mimi sitaki hiyo Kiingereza. Mimi ni mkarabati. What is that? Hiyo ni nini hiyo? Kwani tulimchagua akae hapa nje ama bunge? And if he doesn't talk, then who is representing the people of Kapseret? So we need to clean up that parliament and remove the idiots from there completely. And who are going to occupy these positions? It's me and you, by the way. Mi naulizanga, and just check even my profile hapo kwa status. Nimesemaje, if not me, then who? If not now, when?
Yeah.
That's my question to all Kenyans.
Okay, sasa
wewe ukisema Morara na wewe
so
you can be a member of parliament.
Yeah.
You can be a senator. Why are you doubting yourself? Why are you not taking up this? And we know you. We've been with you in the same chama. We've been family friends with you for a long time. We know you are a person of integrity, but you don't want to take up civic space. You are leaving it to criminals. Where do you expect good leaders to come from and occupy positions if you, who we know to be a guy who can deliver value, is refusing to take it up?
Wow. So Val has something to say, but real quick, Morara, as we come to a close and give you a chance to rest, I want you to think about this. Like you've again gone ahead of the teacher and already told us, like what we should be thinking about now moving forward as far as converting the civil unrest to political action. So think about this. Tell us how exactly will it look? Because people on this other side, the criminals, the wash guys, the murderers, they are not gonna just sit back watching this. They are somewhere scheming, and they almost always tend to be able to convince people in the villages to vote and vote for them back again. So think about how it's gonna look, at least in the short run, before now we look towards 2027, and then tell us what you're thinking about. I know you've clearly said that you're not interested in being a member of parliament, a senator, a governor. You've said that multiple times before. So tell us if you are gonna be preparing to run for president in 2027. And before that, Val had something to say, and then we'll get back to you as we come to a close to wrapping up this show.
I was just going to emphasize what Morara was saying. So a few weeks ago, I think when Sifuna was here, I had said that, I'm going to vie for a political seat.
Yes.
In 2027. It's just something that came to my mind. And what I noticed, and this is why it's so important that we have Morara here to speak to us, to the diaspora. I have got so much discouragement from people here in the diaspora telling me that we focus na politics ya huku diaspora, we achana na mambo ya Kenya. And that is something that diaspora, we do so much, where we separate ourselves from the issues back home. We fail to realize that also what concerns Kenya at home concerns us very much. Morara also made very good points about the economy. Sindio, when we lose, when the middle class, when the middle class is alienated, Sindio, they're the last line of defense. Sindio, Kenya automatically, we lose our sovereignty. There is no going back. And this is our moment right now. Hata kama utasimama governor, utasimama senator, you will be and get 10 votes. At least you did it.
At least you
We
tried.
have to keep reminding the government that they need to be on their toes. We have to educate our younger ones. And when it comes to civil education, with what Morara is doing, I hope there are historians here who are going to work on changing and putting some of these things in our syllabus. Because I feel, I don't want to say the baby boomers are too far gone. There is still hope. There is people with integrity.
Yes.
But this is our moment to shine and change it. Even though it wouldn't be in 2027, if people of integrity tutaingia in those positions, whether it's members of parliament, MCA, whatever those positions are, will be close to the finish line, close to making those end, close to reaching that end. So we have a voice. We can talk to people here. We can talk to people back home. We can do what it takes to support the cause and be in the cause. Morara is we've said he's our spokesman, but like he said, we too, we can be spokespeople.
Absolutely.
Full disclosure, I always say, Ali is our representative. You're a man of integrity.
From the diaspora or
wherever Ali is to go.
Now, the most important thing right now in the diaspora,
yes,
we know that in parliament there's still an issue. We still don't have an IEBC. They said it's being reconstituted. I think one of the most important things, because we're talking about small wins, like Morara has told us, we need to be prepared. Once IEBC is reset, we need that registration to come here, because Morara diaspora, we've been experiencing voter suppression. I think that's another thing that that will brief you later, especially here in the US. There's been serious voter suppression. The way the registration was done in the last election, IBC gave us a 2-week notice that they're going to be here for 1 week, and we have a whole continent where people need to plan to travel and everything. So we're not able to register a lot of people to vote. So we've been organizing ourselves here, myself and Val and a couple of other people, and even here in the studio, we've been organizing to get people to have their IDs or to have their passports ready, so that when that time comes, we register en masse.
We run and
register en masse, such that when we are fighting for our own representation, because Morara, we are also fighting to get our own representation as diasporans, because we don't have our voices effectively represented in the government bodies in Kenya, in the legislature, in parliament, in Senate. We don't have representation, and we are looking for representation. Not a member of parliament of Kieni who will also say, oh, nitaangalia pia mambo yenyu. We need dedicated representation like other African countries have. I think countries like Cape Verde, there's other African countries. I want to say, I'm not sure about Madagascar, but there's a couple of African countries that have representation, and it works. And this representation, sile ya kwenda kutafuta tender. I mean, because I think the people who are gonna get into the next parliament will have the toughest job ever. With this new Kenya that has come up now, they will have the toughest job ever. So you have to be very prepared. If you're going there to cooler tenders and to get rich, utajua ujui, because this Kenya that we are going into right now, the phase that we are in right now, we are not, like Morara said, what you're seeing right now is a calm before a storm that's gonna come like a loud thunderclap. And in fact, the more silent it is, I think the more worried President Ruto should be.